I needed a change because I was in the gym and I'm just like, okay, if um if something happened, whatever, and I needed to get from like point A to point B, and I couldn't drive, couldn't whatever, some zombie apocalypse type thing, and I needed to run. How, would it be easy for me to get there? And I was like, no, it would be a struggle. It would be a struggle. And I thought about, like while I was doing like a Spartan race, I was like, oh, if some zombies was chasing me through this path, would I get away? Would I survive? And I'm like, no, I think they would have caught me about right here.
You are listening to the No Gimmicks, Just Sweat podcast with your host, Eric Logan. No Gimmicks, Just Sweat is dedicated to hearing the journeys and unique stories behind an athlete's training and what drives them. Get inspired to own your life and make the impossible possible. If you enjoy the show, please subscribe so that you never miss an episode. Also, please take a few seconds to rate the show and drop me a review. Now, let's get started with the show.
Hello, and welcome to this episode of No Gimmicks, Just Sweat. And today we welcome Maurice Cornelius to the show. Maurice, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. How you doing, Eric?
I'm good. And for most people that don't know, we've had the most, and I'm doing air quotes now, fun trying to connect to record this episode.
Tell me about it. Everything is working against us. Oh man.
Okay. So if we sound like we're kind of speeding through stuff, it's because we don't want any other blips or blurts to happen.
Yeah, if anything you could think of that's tried to happen has happened. So,
well, Maurice, I'm glad to have you on the show.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
All right. So, as I do with all my guests, I kind of start with a little icebreaker questions. That's allow the guests, the listeners, to get to know you a little bit better, as well as, even though I do follow you online, I always learn something new or something I didn't know about my guest during this time. So, are you ready?
As good as I can. I'm doing as good as I can.
Okay. All right. Morning training or evening training?
Ooh, I'm a midnight type of person.
Oh, okay. Midnight. Okay.
Yes, I'm used to working the graveyard shift, so my body is more awake around like midnight, 1:00 in the morning is where I do most of my training.
Okay. All right. Coffee or tea?
Oh, definitely tea. Coffee, yeah, not on my stomach.
Oh, okay. See, I'm a coffee drinker too. So I'm sipping on tea as we talk.
I would love to do coffee, but I know it has good benefits, but my stomach said no, it's not going to work.
Yeah. All right. Cardio training or strength training?
Both.
Okay.
You got to have a good balance. You got to have a good balance of both.
Okay. All right. Your favorite piece of gym equipment?
This is probably going to sound strange to people who know me, but recently it's become the bench press.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and most people know I don't really, gauge my bench press. So it's like, okay. But for some reason, like recently, it's like, yeah, bench press. I don't know. Starting to love it.
Okay. All right. What's your favorite outdoor activity?
Favorite outdoor activity? I would have to say trail running.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. What's your favorite exercise or form of cross training?
Favorite cross training? I'd have to say swimming.
Okay.
When after being in the gym for so long, I need something low impact.
Okay. All right. What's your least favorite exercise?
Least favorite exercise. It's strange, but I'm not a big get out and just kind of run on like a road runner.
Okay.
I don't know. Running around the neighborhood is boring, even though I still do it. But I don't know. I don't like road running. Put me on the trail. Just give me some trees and nature and animals.
Again, that clean, fresh air, no
Yeah,
cars
yeah,
around. Can't beat trail running.
yeah. When I fell in love, like the first time that I realized that I was running and didn't hate that I was running was when I was on the trail, and I was like, you know what, I could do this.
Okay. All right. First thing you do after a workout.
Ooh, eat. Always eat. Every time I work out, I just get hungry, so I gotta eat.
Well, they say you work up an appetite. So hey.
Every time I do.
All right. What's your favorite song to work out to?
Ooh. I'm gonna have to go with God, I can't. It's by DMX. It's a DMX song, and the name of it is just like I can't think of it right now. It's crazy because I listen to it so much and I can't even remember the name of the song. But it's a DMX song, and that's like that's my intro song when I go to the gym in my head every time.
Okay. All right. Do you have a dream race or event that you want to participate in?
Yeah, it's probably gonna kill me, but it's a Spartan event. I would love to do one of the Agogis.
Oh, okay. Well,
Yeah.
you can kind of explain that as you kind of tell your story.
Okay, yeah, because I've watched it, and I have, like, they have the list of everything you need to be able to do, and I look at it all the time. I'm just like, yeah, that's a little scary, but I still want to do it.
Okay. All right. Last one. If you can train with any celebrity or athlete, dead or alive, who would it be and why?
Ooh, any celebrity or athlete, dead or alive? The first person that actually came to mind was The Rock, and I'm not even sure why.
Everybody says
But
The Rock. Come on. Everybody
yeah, I
says.
know, and I hate that I said that too. Because I'm just like, he's great at everything, but it was strange that was the first name that popped to mind. So I just had to say it because I was like, I don't know why that name popped in my head. So apparently my brain is saying The Rock is who we need to train with. But I mean, even with that said, when you look at what he's able to do, and continue training and the hard work that he puts in, I mean, it's like can't really knock the guy for what he's still been able to accomplish.
Right.
So
that seems to be everybody's go-to answer. Whenever I hear people ask that question, yeah, The Rock. That's the first thing they want to say.
I was like, I don't want to say The Rock, but that was the first thing that popped in my head, I fought it, and I'm like, okay, why did that just pop up? So I just went with it, and I was like, yeah, I'll see what my brain says.
But if you think about it, back in the day before The Rock, if you ask that question, most people would say Schwarzenegger.
Schwarzenegger, yep.
So it's kind of that thing. It's that appearance that like,
yeah,
look at how he's built and stuff. That's who I want to work out with.
Yeah, and the more I think about like that era, the next name that popped into my head was Bruce Lee. Especially as a kid, because I was into martial arts and all that type of stuff. So Bruce Lee was the second name that popped up. So, and it was just like he was very strong, very fast, and didn't even lift weights much, other than his body weight. So, yeah. Yep.
All right. So let's kind of go into who you are. As I tell people, this is your time to kind of share your origin story. And your origin story is that I always tell people, think of yourself as a superhero. You're the next Marvel Universe, superhero. Your story is being told on the big screen. So how does that story start?
Ooh, so for me, I would say my story is going to start with an injury.
Okay.
I was just starting to work out and get consistent with working out when on a bad deadlift, um, I pulled something in my back to the point where I couldn't walk.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, horrible deadlift. And when I look at it now, I'm like, because it was funny. I actually have a video of it. I was recording myself at the time to kind of check my form.
Mm-hmm.
And I look at that video and I'm just like, wow, it was only, it was like 250 pounds, which, it's heavy for some people, but where I am now, I look back, I'm like, I don't even warm up that light anymore, um, so yeah, that's kind of where it started. And it kind of pushed me into learning as much as possible about fitness because I didn't want to experience that pain again. And, I wanted to show other people how to properly perform certain lifts so that they wouldn't injure themselves either,
Okay.
which got me into coaching and yeah, whole slew of other things.
Okay. So were you an athlete growing up? Did you play sports as a kid? Just athlete, and then that just something that's kind of continued on.
Yes and no. I ran track in high school. That would
Okay.
have been the last, competitive um, thing I would have done. And nothing in college other than just, playing basketball, going to the gym here and there, stuff like that. Um, and then not much after college, not much. I was pretty inconsistent. I go to the gym for like 3 months out of the year and stop for maybe a year or so and repeat until my early 30s. So
Okay.
yeah, yep.
Okay. So before we kind of get into the coaching, your
Hmm.
coaching part of the thing, you also are Spartan. You've done Spartan races. So let's talk about that for a little while. What kind of got you interested in Spartan?
Yeah, so that's what really kind of propelled my fitness because um, after that injury where I hurt my back, the I fixed the injury, learned what I did wrong, and all that good stuff. Then I was going to the gym on the regular at that point, and I got tired of being in the gym. I was like, there has to be a better way to test my level of fitness. I'm always trying to test myself to see where I am. I was just like, there has to be a better way to test my fitness. And that's when I came across, that's when I found Spartan Race. So I signed up for my first Spartan race. Um, I did it early. It was like the the race was in June. It was a Chicago race, and I had signed up like December of the year prior. So signed up kind of early, not knowing what to do. I knew I was going to have to run, but I thought I would just, kind of push my way through it. I'm like, oh, I used to run in high school, 15, 20 years ago. And boy, was I wrong. Man, oh man, that it was a learning experience, you know. Um, but yeah, so I did my first Spartan race in that summer. It was it, it was a challenge. There's no doubt about that, and it was definitely the challenge that I was looking for because I've never been in that much pain after doing something. I tell you that it was crazy. The next day I could barely walk, and I was like, when things like that happen to me, I'm the type of person where I'm like, I don't like that I just got defeated like that.
Okay.
So, I was like, I got to do better. And especially when I realized that, I was like, wait a minute, this is the shortest distance they have. It was a sprint. I'm like, this is the shortest distance they have. And I just got my butt kicked to the point where, like, the next day I could not walk. Like, it was ridiculous. I remember I did it with my family and friends for that one. And um, my cousin was driving back home, and the entire way, like, my legs just kept cramping up. I couldn't even sit in the car.
Oh,
I had to stretch my legs straight out across in his back seat, and yeah, it was horrible. But I loved it. That was the strangest thing. So yeah, that's what got me into Spartan racing. You know,
that
Spartan
Spartan
kicked my
laid the
butt.
smack down on you.
Yeah, yeah, you know, and it's like I said, it's strange, but yeah, I loved it, and you know, that was 2018, and in 2019 I would go on to do. I think I did like 20 plus races that year in 2019. So I went from barely being able to do one to doing 20 times that amount the
So
following year.
so you've done 20 from that first race. You've did 20 in 1 year.
Yeah, and that was actually
Wow.
cut short. I started a new job in 2019, and I had to cut my season short in September. So I had planned on doing close to 30 races that year.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Yep.
And to be honest, so are they all just Spartan races, or are they the other types of stuff?
No, though that was just the Spartan races. I had other races that I did. So there was what was the name of it? It's not around anymore. They used to have the little Viking helmet on there.
Oh, I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, it's another OCR, so it was a smaller brand, but they're not around anymore. Um,
So no Tough Mudders or anything?
that's the one thing I have not done, and it was always because they conflicted with a Spartan race that was going on. So yeah, so like can't remember where I was that year. But yeah, it was always some type of conflict with another race or another event that I had going on. But I do plan on doing one this year.
Okay.
Yep.
So you mentioned that one of your dream races was, I can't remember the name. It was a particular Spartan race.
Spartan the Gogi.
Can you kind of explain what that is?
Yeah, Spartan the Gogi. When think of a Spartan race that lasts an entire weekend, but you don't know the events that's going to happen. So yeah, so it's kind of crazy. I've watched some of the videos, and excuse me, and normally it's in a different country. So I think the last one I watched, they were in like Japan or somewhere, and they were doing all of these crazy events where, well, you you're getting into something crazy when you look at the requirements to be able to do one, and they're like, yeah, you need to get certified for these events. So that kind of tells you right there that things are going to get a little crazy.
Oh wow, okay.
So and it's like you have to get your swimming times and make sure you can swim within a certain distance in a certain amount of time. It's interesting to say the least. So
okay. So you also said you love running on the trail.
yes.
So have you done any trail races?
Surprisingly, no.
Oh, okay. Any reason why? Just like it's not challenging enough. It's not challenging enough. It's not as challenging as a Spartan.
Oh, I'm sorry. Say that one more time.
So you saying it's not as challenging as a Spartan?
Well, I'm not gonna say it's not as challenging, but it's like, even though I like running on the trail, I still need something to kind of break it up, and that's what I like about the Spartan races and OCR in general. So it's like, you'll probably never catch me go out and just do, like, let's say a 10-mile run or something. It's like I would need to do a 10-mile run where somewhere along that route there's like a pull-up bar or something.
There are tree branches.
Yeah, that too. And I've done it. I've done that. So yeah. I need something to just break that running up.
Okay, so you are a Spartan athlete through and through.
Oh yeah. That's my foundation right there. Yep,
Okay.
yep.
So let's talk about training for Spartan races. All right. Before you got into Spartan, you were weightlifting and lifting weights, bodybuilding, and stuff. Uh, how does that translate into Spartan races? And what did you have to do to kind of change up to prepare for Spartan races?
Like I said, I was looking for the challenge, and it was definitely a challenge. So, um, like I mentioned before, I thought I would be okay with, kind of pushing through the running portion of a Spartan race.
Mm-hmm.
And, that was my first mistake, thinking that, I didn't need to get out and run as much as I needed to and make it so that, you know, in hindsight, that running needs to be probably the easiest part of it, which was the hardest for me, because like I said, I didn't really, you know, I, I wasn't big into the running scene just yet.
Okay.
So, thinking about like, oh, go for a trail run, go here, look for all these different paths and stuff like that. I didn't know anything about Strava, Garmin, all this stuff that's been around for a while. I had no clue about that stuff.
Okay.
So, which was all, I got all that exposure from doing Spartan races, you know. So I used to look like, wait, you spent $500 on a watch? I said, why? It just tells time. No. And yeah, now I have one on my wrist. So, um, but yeah, it was, I needed a change because I was in the gym and I'm just like, okay, if, um, if something happened, whatever, and I needed to get from like point A to point B, and I couldn't drive, couldn't whatever, some zombie apocalypse type thing, and I needed to run. How, would it be easy for me to get there? And I was like, no, it would be a struggle. It would be a struggle. And I thought about, like while I was doing like a Spartan race, I was like, oh, if some zombies was chasing me through these paths, would I get away? Would I survive? And I'm like, no, I think they would have caught me about right here, because they just don't stop. So yeah. Hey, maybe Joe would throw that in there. He'll have a zombie run or something. Um, but yeah, so with the after experiencing my first Spartan race, it completely changed my style of training. I realized that I just didn't have the endurance, but one thing I did have from being in the gym was the strength. So for me, when I got to the obstacles were easy. Like even my first race, people were like, "Oh, you go across that like you've done this before," and I'm like, "No, no, this is my very first time. I've never done anything with monkey bars, or, that high off the ground and that distance. I never did anything where there's rings or, gymnastics rings, having a bucket carry literally. Um, yeah, I never did anything like that. So, um, but that stuff was easy. And that's what made me realize like, oh, well, if this part is easy for me, all I gotta do is focus on the running, you know. So
Right.
that's what made my training change that year, where I just got more focused on endurance training. So got out and run. I tried to do the street running, but just something about just getting out there and running around the neighborhood. I'm just like, no, it's not for me.
Okay.
So there's a local, if you want to call it like a fitness spot, it's called Swallow Cliff, and it has 10 flights of stairs of varying. The stairs are, I can't remember what they're made of, some type of rock, but it's uneven. So like every step is going to be a different height or depth from the last one. And
Okay.
around there is a bunch of trails as well that people use for bikes, horseback riding, running, obviously. And I went over there for the first time, and that was the first time that I ever went for a run, and I forgot that I was running. So I was like, what was different? and I realized that it was just about the trail. Like I was running with a partner and I had my headphones in and I didn't even realize that I lost them. Like I was just that much in the zone where I was just like, oh, this is fun. I'm like, running can be fun. It doesn't have to suck. And yeah. So yeah, that's where I kind of realized that, yeah, getting, like I said, doing road running isn't for me. It's more about the trail, even though I haven't done any trail racing.
Okay. So
Yep.
would you ever consider doing a trail race?
Definitely. I had planned on doing some. That was when Spartan kind of expanded into trail running. That was going to be the first time that I attempted to do just a trail run. But I wasn't able to do that before, the whole COVID thing and everything. So, and I just, during COVID, I kind of switched training. So I haven't done a Spartan race post-COVID yet.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, let's kind of talk about that. With COVID and, 2020 seems like it was years and years ago.
Yeah, because it was so long too. But,
yeah, and everybody that kind of worked out, that ran races, that was some type of athlete, they had to kind of pivot their training. You had to kind of go a year without races, for most people. So how did that affect you? Did you change up your direction? Did you kind of figure out ways to kind of improve?
Yeah, so when COVID shut down, being a first responder and police officer full time, I still had access to a gym. I still had a full gym facility.
Okay.
I worked at a university. Currently work at a university, and so I still had access to a full gym. And my goal was to take advantage of that. So I'm like, oh, nobody can go out and run right now. I'm gonna try to get ahead of everybody for when things open back up.
Right.
Little did I know, and I'm planning. I'm thinking, I'm like, yeah, it's gonna be a few months before things open back up, and I wasn't thinking like, oh yeah, it's gonna be, a year at minimum before that stuff gets back to normal. I'm just thinking like, yeah, a few months, and I'll kind of get ahead of everybody. Cause I'm like, I have a gym with everything in there I need. Even outside the job, there's a little trail where I used to get off and go running, and do some trail running back there. Because it's on the campus is on like 700 acres, and the majority of it is like just empty land. So I would go back there for running. And once I realized things weren't going to open back up, I started to focus more on strength training again. I was like, you know what? Well, while I'm in this, just kind of post running, I'll say, when it started to get a little colder outside, I decided I was like, I'm gonna try to build my strength up. And trying to remember, somebody mentioned it to me about doing because I was posting my workouts on the Instagram, and somebody mentioned, it was like, you might want to consider looking into bodybuilding. I'm like, bodybuilding? I'm like, no. I'm like, I'm not trying to get up there and, pose for people all oiled and greased up. So, yeah, go figure, right? I was like, no, I don't want to get up there like that, So, but it sparked my interest, and I looked into what it would take to do that. Unfortunately, I was looking in the wrong places. So, like most people, I had the wrong idea about bodybuilding. And, I just see, like your Arnold Schwarzeneggers, your Ronnie Colemans, Dexter Jackson, stuff like that. And I'm just like, God, these guys are huge.
Right.
I didn't know anything, I knew there was, some type of performance enhancing stuff out there, but I found, doing my research, I found that there's a lot of natural organizations too. So that's when I switched up my training. That was late in 2020. And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go ahead and try one of these shows. So I decided to, I saw somebody who looked similar to me online that posted about his experience doing a bodybuilding competition. And I was like, you know what? He won, so I'm gonna make myself look like him. And that was just my goal. I was like, okay, that's what it takes to win. I want to look like the winner then. So that's what changed that was, like I said, that was late 2020 when I started that. So around like November, around like November is when I decided to go ahead and enter a bodybuilding competition. So,
okay.
yep.
And you still, do the bodybuilding and everything, correct?
Yeah. So I did my first competition in 2021. It was by the OCB, and first one in, what's that, June? Yeah, it was like June of, because they had to push it back. Normally they would have it in April, but it was in June because of the changing, COVID was still big.
Right.
So changing COVID protocols and everything. So it got pushed back to later in June. And that was my first show, my first experience doing it. And, surprising to me and still surprising, I took home a win. I still can't believe it sometimes.
See, you never know. You never know.
Yeah, and that's my attitude with a lot of things. That's what gets me to try. I'm the type that I'll try just about anything. Because it's just like you never know what you'll be good at if you never attempt it. So
exactly.
So I don't like to limit myself. Like people be like, "Oh, you're a bodybuilder." I'm like, no. I'm like, I like to get out on my bike. I'll ride a bike. I'll swim. If it's anything fitness related, or requires any type of fitness, I'm just like, yeah, let's do it.
All right. So let's kind of swerve into the coaching aspect of things too. So
okay, yeah.
You coach cross country, correct?
Yeah, at the junior high. That was interesting how that happened. Okay.
And you're a USATF certified coach.
Yeah, I got my level 1 certification just this past summer, which led me into coaching cross country.
Okay, let's piece all that together, because you're looking at Spartan, bodybuilding, and coaching. Cross country coach. So how does all that kind of piece together?
Well, that goes into me saying that I, just like I was saying, I don't like to just put myself in a box as far as, just like, oh, he's just a bodybuilder, or he just does Spartan races. It's like, well, no, I like to do a little bit of everything. And that led me to, and obviously having to be able to do that stuff, you need to have some type of knowledge. So that leads me into, I researched everything, just like how, I was saying, researching what it takes to be a good Spartan racer, researching, to be a bodybuilder, like say I saw a guy who won, I was like, I want to look like him. So, and it just, I was like, oh, I need to get good at running. So this would be a good thing to learn. So I was like, you know what? USA track and field. Yeah, let's do it. I had been putting it off for a while, but they had a local, because none of them were local at the time, especially post-COVID. They were still doing mainly online training. And I was like, I don't want to do this online. I'm like, I want it in person. So once they had their first in-person one, which happened to be like 45 minutes away from my house, I was like, yep, I'm signing up. I don't care what I got to do to get there. I signed up. I was like, I'll figure it off, getting off of work and all that stuff later, but I'm going to do it. So mainly it's just with me wanting to have knowledge in all these different areas to make me better. And through that, people started to pick my brain for knowledge. And it was a friend of mine. She was like, you know what? You need to start training people. She was like, everybody's always asking you questions. You need to start training people. So that's kind of where, things, and my wife, she used to say it too, like, oh, all these people asking questions, they need to, you should be getting paid for this. I'm just like, yeah, but I'm not really a coach per se or anything like that. So I kind of fought that idea for a while until, one day I was just like, somebody actually paid me for it without me even asking. I was like, okay, I guess people will pay me. So, I was like, all right. And now I coach people, strength training, general fitness, um, doing the cross country, I started that one. They needed help. Like my son, he went to cross country for their conditioning camp, and they had a new coach there who wasn't familiar with running. They just kind of they like to just throw teachers in there at their level because that's at junior high.
Right.
So a teacher just kind of like stepped up to make sure that they can still have a team. And he was just like, yeah, the coach needs some help. And, I reached out to her. I was like, hey, if you want some help, you can count on the Cornelius family. And we were there, pretty much at every practice, helping them get through it. I had my daughter, she runs cross country. So I had her come out and help and kind of run things, because they listen a little bit better to her than they do to me, because she's in high school. So, she can get through to them a little bit better. Plus, it was part of me, trying to put her into like a more of a leadership position as she goes forward with her cross country and track career as well.
Okay.
Give her that role of, hey, look, this is what it takes if you want to be, team captain, all this stuff. So she's getting that type of experience beforehand. So, which is great because when I spoke to one of our coaches and it was like, she's different. And I was like, yeah, I put her through some things over the summer. So, but that's led me to coaching other people, and I'm actually getting ready to start a coaching people, start my own business as far as coaching people for, everything. I got a lot of knowledge that I've picked up over the past few years, and it's continuing because all this stuff is, very, very interesting to me. So I'm always reading things. I'm always listening to somebody. I'm always, just like people used to pick my brain, I pick other people's brains as far as how to do X, Y, and Z. So yeah, it's been an interesting journey these past few years.
Okay. All right. So this next question is going to kind of be a twofold question for you. So
Okay.
What is your proudest moment as an athlete? And then the second part of that question, what is your worst moment or biggest mistake as an athlete?
Proudest moment. I would have to say during that bodybuilder competition.
Okay.
In 2020. Just because it opened my eyes up to the world of bodybuilding and to realize that there's a lot more to it than people realize. Like getting ready for one of those shows is not easy. Because like when I talk to people, about bodybuilding, they're like, oh, so you just go in there, you lift some weights, and you get on stage, show off all your muscles and all this stuff. I'm like, yeah, that's like 10% of it. So normally what I do when people have that type of vision for bodybuilding, I'll be like, okay, I'm gonna come over here, and I usually run them through like a posing routine, and I'll be like, okay, so hold this pose, and they'll be like, and they'll stop after like 5 seconds. I'm like, no, you gotta hold that pose for anywhere between like 20-30 seconds sometimes. So I'll run them through like a posing routine. I'll be like, guess what? You're not done. You're going to leave, and then you got to come back and do this again. And then you're going to leave and come back and do it one more time, And by the first time they go through, my first competition, it was recorded. My wife recorded it, and I was up there posing for like 10 minutes straight. The amount of conditioning that's required to be able to do that, when I got done, my body cramped up like when I did my first Spartan race. It was that bad. And that was just after 10 minutes of posing. Well, I had to do it 3 times because I was in 3 different classes. But yeah, it was yeah, my body cramped up like if I was like when I did my first Spartan race. So people don't realize that yes, holding those poses is very, very, very hard. And it was an awakening, you know. I was like, okay, yeah, I got to get this posing thing down because if I can't pose and hold these poses, um, it's like you don't know when the judges are looking at you.
Right.
So you don't want them to catch you when you're, struggling to pose. You're up there shaking, you're starting to sweat, your tan is dripping, the lights it's 110 degrees on the stage and you're trying to hold your composure with
Right.
hundreds of people in the audience just with their eyes on you.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a lot going on there, so but yeah, that was definitely a proud moment because I never thought that I would do it. And I mentioned my wife was recording, and I remember going back and listening to the recording. And when I won, I could hear my kids on there. They're like, and I could hear them cheering for me and all that stuff. And I'm just like, yeah, that's what made me proud because they saw me up there. Because it's like when I did the Spartan races, they would rarely see me. They might see me, I'm coming from getting my shirt and my banana and some other things. That's about it. you know, but this one, they got to see everything. They saw me struggle, leading up into the event, being nervous about going to it. Because I didn't think I was going to do it. I was like, no, I think I'm going to pull out. I didn't think I was going to do it. But I'm glad I did. Because like I said, that was a learning experience. Because yeah, it's a lot more that goes into it than people realize.
Okay. It sounds like it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It is,
Yeah.
between I'm like my nutrition was less than I was eating less than my 8-year-old at the time.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, in order to get to that level of conditioning and getting rid of all that fat. So
Mhm.
you know, yeah. My youngest, she was eating the rest of my food. Because I couldn't eat that much. Like 1,500 calories is not a lot of food for a grown man.
Right.
So I'm like, you could literally, hey, let me get a number or whatever, and that's 1,500 calories right there. And I'm sitting here like I had to spread 1,500 calories over 5-6 meals over the day.
Wow.
So yeah, it's a struggle. It was definitely a struggle. So but a great learning experience. You learn so much about your body, so much about your body. How every little thing you put in your mouth can change your body, the way you look. Like I can eat something and the very next day I'll look completely different based off of what I ate the day before. You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. I can believe that. Yep. I
Yeah,
can believe it.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, that was that. But I'll have to say that was the proud moment because of all the work that went into it and to actually get up there very first time and win all of my classes at that. You know, yeah. So yep, got my pro card and with the OCB and yeah.
Oh, nice. Nice.
Yeah, unexpected, and I was still new to it at the time. So when I won, I was just like, I didn't realize how big of an accomplishment it was until I started talking to some of the other people who were backstage, and it's a great group of people that's usually backstage. It's not like if you're asking questions, you really don't have any like I'll say like stuck up people who's just like, no, you're my competition. I'm not going to talk to you or whatever. Everybody will be back there helping everybody out. It's a great community. So one of the guys who was back there, he was just like, man, he was like, how long have you been doing this? And I'm like, I don't know, maybe 6 months. and he was just, so he started to fill me in on some things. I was just like, oh, I was like, because he told me, he was like, personally, his journey to the stage has been 18 months, and I'm just like, oh, okay. He was like, how did you? And I was just like, well, I was already, and I told him, I was like, I was already in decent shape from doing the Spartan races.
Mm-hmm.
So, the strength training prior to Spartan races already had developed. I had developed a lot of muscle from doing the strength training, and the Spartan races just kind of really leaned me out. But even as I continued to train for Spartan races, I continued with my strength training at the same time. So, which is something I get on a lot of my running people about. I'm like, you got to strength train. So,
Yes,
um,
definitely. Yeah.
but yeah, so I continue to do that, and I really leaned out. Like, if you look at some of my, if you've seen some of my pictures on my Instagram, 2018, 2019, you can see, that year of changes. To where it's just like, wow, most people thought I was like some type of bodybuilder back then. I'm just like, no, I'm like, I lift weights like twice a week, but every workout involves some type of weighted training, whether it was weighted running, whatever it was. I always had some type of weight on me while I was doing my endurance. So so crazy changes in my body that I didn't realize until, later on into the year. So
Okay. All right. So what about the second part of that question? The biggest mistake or worst moment as an athlete?
Worst moment. I have to go back to that first Spartan race. Oh my God. And it's funny because the amount of pain that I was in, most people be like, I'm never doing this again.
Right.
And I'm sitting there, I'm like, oh, I need to sign up for another one. So I definitely got bit by that Spartan bug. It was crazy,
That's how
like
we all get hooked. You finish that first one and you're like, I know I can do better.
Right. Especially, because I'm competitive as it is. So when something like that kicks my butt, I'm like, I don't like that. I don't like getting beat the way I just got beat. Because, like I said, I couldn't walk for days. It was horrible. But I signed up for another one, and I actually got into this was Spartan used to do a lot more events around here back prior to COVID.
Right.
So they were always having like workout tours, obstacle course challenges, all that types of stuff in this area as well, which, hopefully somebody from Spartan listened to it. Hey, bring that back to this area. We kind of missed that in this area. We used to have a lot going on, but through those little side events that they do, I ended up joining the what's called the Spartan Street Team, and it's just like a volunteer basis team where when they have events like those, you come out and you help. And this is what allowed me to run those races. They pay you in races. So that's what made it easy for me to do all those races in 2019, because once I would get done with an event, I would just kind of stick around and help out, volunteer, which it felt like I was just talking to people, and it felt like I was volunteering, doing anything. And, they would pay you in races. So I'd go to an event, stay there, run my race, stay there for the rest of the day, get however many hours. Sometimes I just forget. I'd be like, yeah, I'll just stay here for the rest of the day. I don't have anything else to do. Okay. And that's what made it so that I could, run all those races, because I didn't have to pay for them. I was just like, yeah.
Yeah, if I didn't have to run, if I didn't have to pay for them,
yeah, I just gave them a little bit of my time, but like I said, it didn't feel like I was, it didn't feel like anything. It just felt like I was, just talking to people. So if you ever leave a Spartan race, you would see the street team. They usually work in the exit tent, and they're usually asking about how your race was and all that types of stuff. So and it just felt like I was just talking to people. That was it. Picking people's brains is, trying to, personally for me, I was just picking people's brains. I'd see some of the elite people leaving, and I get to meet some of them. Pick their brains for a little bit, just to kind of see, what they're doing as far as training. Just trying to get some as much knowledge as possible about the sport. So so I loved it, and they, like I said, they paid me in races, and they actually fed me too. So that's
come on, how can you beat that? You're getting paid in races and you're getting food.
Right. So and that's kind of like how my fitness journey has been, as far as getting exposure into doing different things. Like, I didn't plan on, helping to coach cross country. You know, I was like, they asked if they needed help, and then, you know, I was right when that happened, and I had already signed up for the USA TF stuff, and you know, I was like, oh well, this is perfect because now I get to put to use what I just learned, you know. So I was able to do that, and you know, help the school out with the coaching the cross country, and yeah, 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 it's an interesting journey, that's for sure. You know, it's like who gets these opportunities. So it's just I didn't want to, you know, throw away any potential opportunity. So I'm just like, anytime something comes up, I just like, yeah, yep, yep, I'm gonna help. I'll help because I want to learn. You know, I'm just trying to learn as much as possible because there's so much going on, and it one thing exposes you to something else, exposes you to something else.
Yes.
You meet all these new people with these different ways of life, and you know, it's just you learn so much. Like, you know, when I did those 20 Spartan races in 2019, I mean, I got phone numbers and met all type of people, you know, that I would never have. I would have never met, you know, I would have never met because that year I traveled for Spartan races. You know, I'm everywhere across the country. I'm in Jersey, I'm in Florida, I'm in Texas, I'm in Vegas. You know, I'm everywhere traveling every month, and I was gone somewhere. So, yeah, and you get to you learn a lot about people, and that was the best part about it.
Okay, all right. So, what is a non-athletic fact about you that most people don't know? You know, that could be like a hobby or something.
Non-athletic, man. It's been a while. I've been doing so much athletic stuff. Let's see. I'll say, you know, I love to tinker. So with the cars, electronics, and things like that. So like when I was in college, I pretty much, you know, that's how I ate. You know, I used to work on cars, you know, little mechanic stuff, but mainly on the electronic side, which I still do. For a while, I used to. Uh, I can't remember what year it was, but yeah, I used to do all of that stuff right out of my garage, you know, and that was how I ate literally. So for let me see, I want to say about 4 or 5 years or so, I was a stay-at-home dad. So another interesting fact, you know, my daughter, she was born, my eldest, she was born at 29 weeks, and we didn't want to just leave her with anybody. So at the time I wasn't working, and I just made the decision. I was like, you know what, I'm just stay home, you know, stay home with them. And which was perfect because, you know, it allowed me to give her, and then later, a year later, my son, give them the attention that they needed, you know, which was perfect because it's hard. I'm not gonna lie. I see what the, you know, when mothers talk about, you know, being a stay-at-home mom, and you look and you're just like, yeah, it really is a full-time job. But you know, I wouldn't have changed that. I wouldn't change that period of time for anything. You know, you get to learn a lot about your kids. You get to bond with your kids that you normally don't see fathers get to have. And you know, one thing that used to kind of like, you know, irk me about it is I would be out with my kids during the day, and I would always get comments about, you know, like, oh, how did you get stuck with the kids today? And I'm just like, no, I'm not stuck with the kids. These are my kids, you know, like, you know, and I kind of took that personally. I'm just like, no, they're mine. I'm not stuck with them. These are my little, you know, offspring. So, yeah, you know, so, and I liked it because people got to see the father with the kid all the time. So when I would take my kids to some of the events, you know, I would be like the only father there, let alone, you know, a black father at that. You know, I would be the only father there. You know, so people would look like, oh, that's great. There's a dad here. You know, they're not used to seeing that. You know, so yeah, it was, you know, it was a great time period. I got to stay at home, and that's where I, you know, pretty much worked on cars, and that's how I paid my bills. You know, while being a stay-at-home dad. And cars is something that I've done for basically, I mean, even before I could drive, so yeah, I like to tinker with the electronics and all that type of stuff. And yeah, I'm a geek at heart. I'll say that. I'll just say I'm a geek. Um, you know, all that technological stuff. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Before I let you go, what's next for you? Are you training for anything now? Or any Spartan races or anything you're getting ready for?
I haven't figured out what I'm gonna do for my race calendar or just my calendar in general this year. Um, I didn't mention it, but back in August, I was actually in a car accident.
Right.
So and I tore my in my right shoulder, I tore my labrum. There's a slap tear there. And so that kind of changed what I had planned to do towards the end of that year, because end of last year I did plan on doing another bodybuilding competition, but not being able to lift my arm above my head, that wasn't going to happen. So right now I'm just like, I'm not sure. It's just starting to get to the point where I've also been off of work since then too. So, but it hasn't kept me out of the gym. I'm like, I still have one good arm, so there's things that I can do. But as of right now, I did sign up for I mentioned I haven't done one, but I have signed up for the Tough Mudder, which is in August of this year. So that's the only thing that's so far written down in pen on my calendar, is that Tough Mudder in August. But outside of that, no, I'm just trying to get back to, my level of normalcy, as far as dealing with this injury, which, is, I think I'd have to say I'm probably at about 80% right now.
Okay.
If not a little bit higher, because even though there's things that I still can't do, or should I say can't do like I used to do, like I said, I'm still in the gym. I'm still, in there trying to crush it as much as possible, given my limits. I'm like, I'm not going to let an injury, hold me down, so. But yeah, you'll catch me at least in August. I know I'll be at that Tough Mudder in the Chicago Tough Mudder.
Okay. All right. So you got any last words you want to share with the listeners?
Not much that I can think of. Hey, there's my origin story and some other things that you might not know about me. If anything, I would tell people, don't give up, and don't limit yourself to what you think you can do, because, just like I say myself, if I never tried to do any of this stuff, I would never know.
Right.
I would never know what I was capable of doing.
Right, and that's so true, because you never know how far you can run, how far you can ride a bike, what you can do until you get out there and try.
You have to try it. You have to try it. So if anything, that will be my last words. Whatever you've been holding back or pushing to the side, just go try it. Go try it. You never know what can happen.
Exactly. Well, Maurice, I appreciate you coming on the show. Thank you.
Hey, trust me. I'm glad we were finally able to make it happen.
Yes.
If only people knew.
If only they knew the backstory. So, well, let's go. If people wanted to kind of follow your story or get in contact with you, how can they do so?
Oh, great. They could definitely send me a message right on Instagram. My current IG is going to be, Spartan Reese. And that's Reese with REECE. So you can catch me there. Send me a message there. I'm also on Facebook with my name, Maurice Cornelius, if you want to send me a message there. And coming soon, as I mentioned, I will be starting my own coaching, offering coaching as well. So you can send me a message there if you if you're looking for a coach or a trainer, personal trainer.
Awesome. Again, hey, I appreciate you coming on the show and talk with me today.
All right, I'm glad you had me, and I'm glad we're finally able to get it done.
All right. Hey, you have a wonderful day now.
All right, thank you.
All right, bye-bye.
All right.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the No Gimmicks, Just Sweat podcast. We really appreciate everyone who tunes in each week. If you enjoyed today's show, please support us by subscribing, rating, and reviewing this show wherever you listen to podcasts. And remember to tell your friends about the No Gimmicks, Just Sweat podcast, so we can continue to have awesome conversations with everyday athletes just like you. Until next time, have an amazing week.